Welcome to the SmartTechCheck podcast, hosted by Mark Vina, your home for candid, insightful, and provocative conversations about the smart home automation, security, smartphones, PC and console gaming, and much more.
My name is Mark Vina, host of the SmartTechCheck podcast. Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Joining me for today's podcast are Stuart Walpin, who scribes for Popular Mechanics, AARP, Techlicious, Investopedia, and other wonderful publications. John Quain, who writes for the New York Times, Smart Cities, and Tom's Guide. And we've got Rob Pegoraro, who has proven that being in journalism allows you to travel to very exotic and wonderful places. He's in Hawaii.
Aloha.
He writes frequently for Tech Policy on Wirecutter PC Magazine and USA Today. Guys, how you doing today?
Good.
Could be better if I can get the damn camera working.
Well, I'm going to talk to the IT department, I promise, and I'm going to fire the CIO. I mean, Elon Musk has proven, he has shown the world how you fire people. So I'm going to fire my CIO after this call. But anyway, let's just jump into the topics right away because we've got quite a bit to catch up on. We're not going to have a podcast next week, which is Thanksgiving, but let's definitely kind of tee the first topic off here, and that is, if I bring it up on the screen. TikTok, I think you're asking a real bold question, John. Is it really that dangerous? What do you mean by that? Because there's a lot of, there is a lot of concern about TikTok, and there has been a lot of concern about it for quite some time. But why have you raised that question?
Oh, because the FBI director was just testifying recently in front of Congress, so, one of these committees about how serious he actually thinks the potential threat is from this company in terms of gathering information and, actually taking control of people's smartphones, basically harvesting a lot of information on U.S. citizens. Remember, this is a Chinese ownership issue. And in China, the rules are such that if you're a company in China, you have to relinquish any data that they may want at any given time. So that's always an issue, and that's the concern that TikTok could be leveraged by Chinese hackers, Chinese government hackers in this world of eco-espionage kinds of cyber attacks that go on all the time, every day, and that TikTok makes American citizens vulnerable. So it's not just about all happy-go-lucky dancing videos and cats riding on Roombas and things like that, that there's a serious threat there. That's the idea.
But as you look at the data, but you've been covering topics and derivative of topics like this for some time. Are you concerned? Or you think right now is just kind of America's way of getting back at China, to put it simplistically?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, it's all of what I just said before is certainly true. That threat does exist, and it exists from any company. Google and Amazon track you all the time. Google records you all the time almost, and tracks you all the time almost. So these violations of privacy and actually threats to your personal security are very real. And it's certainly true that if they wanted to, there are a lot of hacks on the Chinese hackers have gone into the government servers as well. So all that's true. The question is, what do you do about it in this global marketplace? I think this is just going to come up all the time. And, some other country might own a different piece of software that's very popular. And what do you do about that? And what kind of safeguards can you put in?
Rob, what's your view from your comfortable balcony in Hawaii?
I'm so much closer to China than the rest of y'all. I think TikTok as a security and privacy threat is really overblown. First of all, if the Chinese government wants to get location data on America, they can just buy it from the same data brokers everyone else buys it from. They don't need to use this one app. And TikTok itself, you don't have to. Last time I put it on a test one, I didn't even ask for location permission. So it is actually relatively light in terms of the data it collects. You can say that here we have this immensely popular social media app that is at least theoretically, notionally under the control of a foreign government that doesn't let U.S. social media apps operate. So there's issues of ownership and control that I think are separate from, is this app any more of a privacy threat than anything else. We mentioned Google, I think actually they know how to keep their own data safe. It is very valuable to them. I worry more about the wireless carriers, which keep anywhere from 1 to 5 years of cell site location history. Is their IT as good as Google's? I'm going to say probably not.
So where do you fall on this, Stuart? Do you are you concerned or are you not concerned?
I'm depressed. This is sort of like shovel out an avalanche with a single shovel. I mean, Theron said there are so many companies who are using so many sophisticated to collect whatever they can. I was just at a conference a couple of weeks ago that companies are collecting for what they call first-party data in order to get a better idea of who their customers are, to follow customers through the customer's journey. Data is benign, but at the line between and what is dangerous and how easy it is to cross that line willingly, consciously, unconsciously. It's sort of like you lay out a temptation in front of people and their natural advantage of it. And I think that's what's happening, that we've made all of these in tools available to all of these companies, and they simply sell in the name of capitalism, in the name of competition, in order to get a leg up, satisfy shareholders, and all of this inertia, essentially, to collect and to make the more information anybody to collect, to accelerate it by algorithms, by government, even the European laws, to rein in these people. I'm almost that you just have to have a blanket ban on collecting any data expressed, okay from each. And I don't even think that sounds. We're going to be Google later, and up until May 2018, collecting data on its users, even if you had signed out of their app. So right. The temptations, I think, are just too great for these companies to avoid, and I'm just not sure that there is a solution except as yourself making locking yourself in the bathroom.
Yeah, to be very honest with you, I don't know how I fall on this. I mean, I'm very sensitive to the argument that the government has made, but I also understand, that there are certain political parties in this country that benefit from creating this perception that TikTok is going to destroy the world. So I think somewhere between those two points of view is, I think, where the answer is. I do think we have our own issues with, and we're going to talk about in a few moments, with Google and others that I think represent the more significant threat to American privacy of citizens and things like that. But let's hit the next topic here. And John, I know you love this topic because you're close friends with Elon Musk, and I know you've been on vacation with him. But I want to say something up front, though, because I'm going to be the lone person on this, because I think I know how each of you feel about good old Elon Musk. There's no question in my view that he's gotten into with this acquisition of Twitter. I think he took something over he never anticipated, which is shocking. How to run the damn thing. I think he's saying explicitly he's probably going to hire a CEO that hopefully that kind of runs the place in a smoother way. It's shocking to me that he laid off half the not the Salesforce, but half the company, and not understanding that he was laying off certain groups that when he wanted to make certain feature changes, he had to rehire them back. So it's kind of crazy that a CEO like that would not have that kind of organizational understanding of the company, of like where the bodies are that keeps the thing running. But I will say that I'm very sensitive to the argument about the fact that he's, now that he's at least right now, the CEO of the company, he owns the company. he has a fiduciary responsibility to get the company back on the right track from a profitability standpoint. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy with the fact that, hey, he laid half the company off. He's got to figure out a way to replace a lot of advertising revenue that's gone out the window recently. I think he needs the whole, he's trying to fix that whole verification process, which, I mean, there's been some fits and starts there. So I'm, and by the way, let me just conclude this whole argument where, I think he issued some type of ultimatum this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, where people have to agree with him that they're going to work hard or they're out of there. We can debate all day long whether that's the greatest motivational technique to manage people, and I would argue that it's probably not. But he has he has every right to expect people who work at Twitter to work as hard as they can. I think any CEO should have that expectation. So anyway, with that as a kind of proviso, I'm gonna go to John last because I know he's saving some firepower. But let's start with Stuart.
Well, I mean, this is an example of the Peter principle. I don't know what is. He's really risen to the level of his incompetence, and first of all, to old corporate saw that when you come in to take over a company, you hire two and you fire two. Everybody else know what your intentions are. And what he did was with actual in charge to just fire the two and not hire anybody is cowards. But it was really funny. Trevor Noah had a very interesting take on this, where he talked about that he has sent out this rah, work hard and we'll do fine pep talk via email. He was a football coach and gather everybody in the locker room and kneel down and put all your arms in his, football coaches are well known for berating their team before egging them on. They don't do that by email. So I thought that was a really interesting take. But if this is just an MBA 101 in the Peter principle, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So Rob, from your comfortable perch in Hawaii, what's your take on Mr. Musk and the drama at Twitter?
It has been really confusing because I've been following and covering SpaceX for a long time, and if you ran that company the way he's run Twitter, I don't want to think about it. It's just perplexing. If you decide to fire a lot of people, you don't need to be cruel. But a friend of mine found out he was fired when he couldn't log into his work laptop. And you can't assume that advertisers are someone you can just order around, keep spending your money here or else. And then Musk he has so much to do, and he wastes so much time on Twitter responding to some of the worst grifters and malcontents and frauds out there. If that's his sense of what the problems on Twitter are, it's never going to get better. And it's distressing because I like Twitter. As a journalist, it's my chance to write the New York tabloid headlines I could never get away with in any of my day jobs. Valuable as public notebook. I get a lot out of the service despite all the stupid people on my bench. And the odds of it found a year from now are less than they were. I think it will muddle through, but a lot of Musk's money is just going to get lit up on fire.
Okay, John, this is a 65-mile-an-hour pitch down the middle. Aaron Judge is up. What do you think, John?
Well, it's been interesting. Mastodon, go Mastodon.
Right.
They picked up almost 300,000 users in the first couple of days after Musk took over Twitter, which is remarkable, right? And the social media platforms can come and go, especially in this case where there's no investment. I have no photos up there that I'm worried about with my family photos or anything like that, or college friends that I'll lose track of if I don't stay on the platform. So Twitter doesn't have a hold on people. That's one of the things that he doesn't really understand. It's like, I can switch tomorrow. Not a big deal, pretty easy to do. Yeah, it's been really interesting. That hardcore, the actual word was he wants people to promise to be hardcore. This is from a guy who was born with a platinum spoon in his mouth. I don't think too many people are going to take too kindly to that kind of advice. So he slept in the factory at Tesla one night. I don't think this guy knows what really hard work is. So I don't think a lot of employees are going to like it very much. And some of the comments from the employees already are pretty humorous.
Well, but John,
yeah, I think he doesn't.
John,
He doesn't understand it. Yeah.
Let me just jump in for 1 second, though. Is that, and I hate to say this, but I agree with a lot of your commentary. But I will say one thing is that I think the Twitter thing, in terms of the employees yapping about what's going on here, is that, remember, and you guys don't live out here in Wonderland, out in Silicon Valley. For those people who work at Meta, formerly Facebook, Apple to a lesser degree, Google. I mean, there's an entitled perception that a lot of these employees have, and you put these folks in a company on the East Coast or in Middle America. Oh my God, we don't get free breakfast, we don't get free lunch, I don't get a massage at 3:00 in the afternoon. I mean, there is this perception of a lot of young people who, and it's not just at Twitter, by the way, it's other firms like it here, that they really think the world operates like regular companies that don't give stuff for free to employees, and so I kind of discount some of the yapping that goes on with the employee piece. I mean, the thing that really just kind of jumps at me, though, is that running a software company, and this is where I want you to close on this, because I think you'll agree, running a software company is fundamentally different from running a hardware company. SpaceX is a hardware company. They create rockets. Now, there's software that plays obviously a huge role. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla is a hardware company. They manufacture cars that have a very vibrant software element to their strategy. But I don't think he knew what he was getting into running a software company. It's a lot different game. And that's the thing that surprised me. So anyway, I think he bought this thing and is treating it like a toy, honestly. And I think the greatest contribution he can make is he better hire a CEO who knows what he's doing right away.
Well, to your point, absolutely. So why does SpaceX run so smoothly? Because he hired people from orbital science, engineers, actual rocket scientists to run that company and do what they do best, and he stayed out of it. That's not a thing that he's involved in.
SpaceX has got a really effective COO. Tesla doesn't have a COO.
Right. So all those
desperately needs one right now.
All those people know what they're doing. When has Tesla really done well in terms of sales? When Elon Musk wasn't involved with the company anymore, really. So that's when that's when the company really took off and has done very well. So you're absolutely right, and I think you're absolutely right. He doesn't know anything about social media. It's not a thing for Elon Musk. So this is kind of fun watching a founder. Although I feel very sorry for the people that work for the company. Obviously, that's not a good thing.
Well, just to wrap this up, I mean, for guys like us, this is the entertainment value is endless. It will probably last well into 2023, and I have a feeling that we'll be talking about this again in the not too distant future. I know it's going to, the entertainment value will continue. Let us talk about the next topic here. This is a topic, Stuart, that you wanted to bring up, and I think it's an important one. Google had this massive privacy settlement announcement of $392 billion, not $1 million. Am I correct?
Million.
It's billion.
Million.
Is it million or billion?
It's million.
Million.
It's million. Sorry, it's million.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was billion, but still the point is still important. 392 million is still a big number. So let's talk a little bit about that, the significance, and what caught your eye about this topic, Stuart.
Well, I'm sort of thing. It's what these companies can do and will do to collect data. This is what these companies are in business for. They're none of the business that are facing the consumers. These companies are collecting and monetizing our data. This is what these companies are. And what Google apparently had been doing is that they were telling people clicked off "Don't follow me" when they turned off location services, that they were still collecting methodology. Like I said, up until May 2018, they were still collecting location data logged out of their applications. So they had already lost an $85 million. There are this suit covered 40 states, and there are still Texas, the District of Columbia, and a few others who are still suing because, unlike Europe, the United States does not have a blanket set of federal law on piracy. So even if California says we're going to have these rules, like in the Texas or California says this is what we want our textbooks to look like, or emission standards, almost every markets, that doesn't work here. Because you can do all sorts of things and avoid whatever a single state wants to do. So, and mark my words, I'm not saying this is a drop in the bucket. It's a big number to bet. 392 million, is, I wouldn't say it's a decimal point, but not as significant as we think it is when spread out over 40 states and the million that we're talking about. And of course, all those users have to make claims, and so a lot of 92 million is just going to go to more lawyers anyway. The only positive outcome that I can see of this is to do something. And we all know how effective Congress technology issues. So I don't know that there is any kind of answer, any jurisdiction that can rein in any of these companies from desperately want to do, which is keep our eyes glued and collect as much data about, monetize that data to the fullest extent allowable until they get caught.
Right. Rob, your thoughts?
So, yeah, it's been interesting to follow this. It started when the Associated Press did this check and found that you disabled location history, but you hadn't looked in a separate category called web and app activity. Notice the word location doesn't appear in that. The location can still be tracked. So Google says there's, in addition to the 392 million, which I agree is less than a drop on the bucket. Since their last quarterly earnings, I forget what they said, 20 or $23 billion in cash and cash equivalents on hand on the balance sheet. So they're going to revise the setup UI, user experience, to make it a little more clear what data gets collected. They said they've already done changes. For instance, now by default, if your location history gets erased after 18 months, they actually got this out of when I checked with them first started for PC Mac. If you do web searches, your location is only estimated down to about a square mile. So it's a little data minimization. The other thing I would add, since I mentioned this just 10 minutes ago, don't forget the wireless carriers also collect cell site location data. Unlike Google, they do not let you view it, edit it, or delete
it. John?
Yeah, one thing to point out to people too is they're not going to stop doing this. This deal wasn't, oh, you did something bad, now stop doing it. Oh, they're going to continue to do this. I should also point out, they do a lot more than this. As part of the user agreement, they can record you at any time. So this conversation we're having now, any conversation you have at home with your phone anywhere near you in your home is being recorded. And you can see the evidence of this often, even though both Amazon and Google have denied to me that they do that. But they do. They clearly do record it. So, it's really strange for them to get this fine and then say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of pop-ups. That's what we're going to do. That's their solution. It's like, but we're still going to track you every single thing that you do.
Right. Well, and to Stuart's point, 392 million, while it's a big number, it's not a number that's going to force Google to consider bankruptcy. Not that, and my point is that they may have made a calculation within the company saying, hey, you know what? If we have to pay $400 million every few years to make people go away, we're still making so much money in the back end. That's a we'll call it, that's a sunk cost that we have to build into our business model.
Right, and that's what their lawyers do. Just like the automakers, look, they say, look, we can make so many mistakes in a factory and have this many car accidents. That's what we can afford, and we can't afford anything more than that. And this is the same kind of calculus. It's the cost of doing business. And you're absolutely right. I mean, Rob pointed out what the numbers really are. You really got to cut into that ad base to make any kind of impact or change in their behavior. And
Right.
Stuart's also right. There's no national privacy law that we've been working on for 10 years. So there's nothing to really enforce this company.
Yeah, and keep in mind,
the amount of money that they were fined, and the consider up in the bucket that it is, gives you an indication of one, just how it is, and two, that how valuable that data is means that they are not
right.
Right.
Well, and keep in mind, and you notice the one company we haven't talked about in this discussion is Apple. Apple has adopted very aggressive privacy requirements, and as a result, we've seen that have a consequence for both Meta and Google in terms of the impact on their on not Apple's advertising revenue, but Google's advertising revenue and Facebook's advertising revenue. So it may be, hey, we got to kind of step over the line a little bit, because it allows us to keep our advertising and tracking capability at a level where it's still relatively lucrative. And then, hey, if we got to spend $400 million every 4 or 5 years, so be it. So that now I think we'll revisit this topic again, because we're going to hear about this over and over again. Let us talk about the last topic I want to tee up here, because hopefully we're all going to see each other. A $64,000 question, not the $392 million question, but the $64,000 question. Will CES be back to its former glory in January? What I mean by that, let me take this off screen, is that CES did happen last year, early in the year, back in January, but it was a shell of its former self. I think only 25,000 people showed up. You could get whatever. It was a small number. I mean, it wasn't at the 150,000 level.
It was easy. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, you liked it because, well, did you go? I can't remember. Were you there?
Yes.
I was. That's how well attended it was. I didn't even know. I forget where you were there. Oh yeah, we did. I think we did see each other. But regardless,
yes.
If you had to handicap this, Rob, do you think it'll be what you're hearing? Do you think this will be back to its former glory, attendance-wise, this year? Early next year.
I want to say I'm afraid of. I mean, maybe it won't be 180,000, but I don't see it being any less than say 120,000, which would make it larger than almost every other gathering in the U.S. There may be some companies. We were discussing this at breakfast today. A couple of analyst friends, and they were saying some companies will not be there. They would expect to be there. But on the other hand, CES itself has changed. It is less of a tech show. It doubles as a car show these days. Last year, it's been so long. January, that it was a substantial aerospace track, which was not there before. Now one of the biggest public exhibitors is John Deere, because the tractors are so high tech. So there will be some companies you expect to see will be there. There will be other companies you are surprised to see being there. Certainly, the airfare it pays to CES is in fact back.
Right.
So, John, what are your thoughts? Are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic. I mean, Stuart and I attended the preview CES Unveiled last night, and we saw each other briefly there at the 101st floor out in Hudson Yards. I didn't take any pictures, but a lot of my colleagues did. You'll see that stuff online. But so I do think it's back, and I think it'll be interesting to see. Although they're soft pedaling, it's certainly what Rob just alluded to with the airfares. The airfares are about 30% what they were normally for CES at this time of year, but lower. So all these other airfares are going crazy. They're charging astronomical amounts of money to fly regular places. Not to Las Vegas for CES though. So they're kind of being a little hesitant. Yeah, I mean they're hesitant.
I wish that airfare phenomenon was impacting my Thanksgiving trip from the West Coast to South Carolina, which has cost me $900 to fly. I mean, it's crazy. I'm absolutely convinced that with the Las Vegas, and probably Rob could probably comment on this. I think that the airlines get some type of subsidy when you're flying to Las Vegas, because even now you can fly, if you have a couple of week notice, I can fly from San Jose to Las Vegas probably 5 or 6 times a day for less than $100 each way. But God forbid I should want to see my mom in Bluffton, South Carolina. That's costing me $1,000. That drives me crazy.
Right.
Stuart,
No, it's been expensive.
Stuart, your thoughts? Is it back or is it not back?
Well, it all back in 2020, which is the last pre-pandemic show. They had about 4,455,000 people. And from what CTA told us last night, and they're usually they have 2,200 exhibitors signed up right now. And there's sure to be another couple I'll sign up in December. And they are already got more than 100,000, which that will go up also. So you got to figure it about 110, 120,000 attendees. But certainly it measures to what was going on in the mid 90s when I was number one. Number two, what the Gary Shapiro, CEO, last night, that most of the missing exhibitors are and all of us who have gone to CES certainly remember they would build these tents, or there would be these rows and rows and rows of these unknown Chinese OEMs. They won't be there. So that that's mostly what they will. They said that they're not missing anybody major, that they've actually added a couple of majors. Nothing here. But West Hall, which is the new building that they built in what used to be the parking lots there, exhibitors, and it's almost all vehicle related, not only automotive and sea transportation, and it is apparently, according to Gary, sold out. Again, they talked about that or as Rob mentioned, that it's the new auto show, and that's what they talked about last. It presents the biggest auto display in the country. It's not open to consumers as the Detroit Auto Show is. So it's back. It's coming back. I don't think it's coming back as strong as CEDIA did. Much closer to its pre-pandemic attendance levels than CES will be, but I think only because CEDIA is almost all a domestic audience, where CES is an international side, and especially the Chinese side that you will see where coming in terms of exhibitors and visitors.
Yeah, so just a final comment I'll make on this, because I think you said something was kind of interesting. Even though it may be back, forget about the overall attendance, but from, hey, the attendees that were there before, the big guys that always show up, their presence there may be a bit scaled back, because as we know, we're going into the country probably will be going into a recession next year. You've had companies now for the last 3 years pocket the extra money that they haven't had to spend on CES, which goes right to the bottom line. I mean, as you know, putting these humongous exhibits that we all know CES for, those cost $5, $10, $15 million. That's real serious money to even big companies from an expense standpoint. So even though they may be back, what will be interesting to watch, and we'll of course see it when we're there, is maybe in 2019 they had those exhibits that could be like a city block, but have they been scaled back 50%? Which that could dramatically, lower their cost footprint, so they could say, hey, we were there, but you know what? We didn't need a 4,000 foot trailer and et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But guys, thanks for taking the time to join me for today's podcast. For our viewing and listening audience, thanks for making the Smart Tech Check podcast part of your day or commute. And please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Mark Vina Tech Guy. And until next time, have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks, guys.
Gobble, gobble.
Follow.